The Message of a Flower, The Divine Immanence in Nature, by Henry Thomas Hamblin. Chapter 2. The Mind of God. It is now known that natural selection and adaptation to environment form only a very minor part in evolution, and that the changes which take place in animals and plants are due to a dominant idea that exists in the species itself. It is sufficient for the purpose of this booklet to take notice of the fact that modern science is proving what occultists have believed and held for centuries, that manifestation on this plane is the effect of the thought and imagination of a creative intelligence. It proves that development and unfoldment are not so much due to environment and selection as they are due to a dynamism independent of the organic matter. It proves there is a conscious force, an intelligence, a purpose immanent in everything. If evolution is accepted, we are compelled to admit that all the progressive and complex transformations that have been realized existed potentially in the primitive elementary form or forms. We see, therefore, that existing in everything is a creative idea. All that we see is what it is, as a result of the dominant vital dynamism contained within itself. Therefore, when we gaze at a sunset, we do not just see the sunset, but something of the creative mind. When we look lovingly into the tender face of a wayside flower, we see not a mere neglected, unappreciated blossom wasting its sweetness on the desert air, but something of the imagination of the divine mind. It is by contemplating and spiritually understanding the beauty within nature that we can enter into the mind and thought and creative imagination of the divine. There is an ancient Hermetic maxim which runs, "As above, so below." And if we apply this to our lesson, we see something of the wonders of the divine mind. To most of my readers, the creative power of mind is something with which they are familiar. Man is a creator in proportion to his power of creative imagination. First in the unseen, then in the seen. This is the law of the universe. First the image is formed in the mind, a vivid picture of what is to be, and it is held there continually until, in the outer visible world of matter, the thing created begins to manifest. It does not appear all at once or in its complete form. First it takes on its elementary form, and gradually it evolves until the idea is attained and the ambition achieved. A businessman creates in his mind a vivid picture of a big and successful business. He holds this image in his mind, and it forms the matrix out of which emerges its replica in the visible world around. First, he has a very small business, and although it appears to bear no resemblance to the picture created in his mind, in reality it does. that small business, because it is the creation of that image held in the mind, contains the dynamic urge, the creative idea, which will guide it through stress and challenges into the calmer waters of prosperity, and will cause it to grow and expand until it becomes a replica of the image that has been held persistently in the mind of its creator. Or again, an inventor forms in his mind the picture of the machine that is to be. He sees it working, and it inspires him by day and fills his dreams by night. Gradually, the idea begins to manifest in aluminium and steel, and the result is crude and unsatisfactory. But in spite of this, there is inherent in it the possible perfected machine that inventor has visualized. Following many failures and setbacks, the machine is completed and comes into the form that had been originally held in the inventor's mind. As above, so below. And the reverse is equally true in this matter. And just as man creates by his picturing and mental imagery, so must it be with the divine mind. Therefore, what is true of the individual mind must be true of the universal mind manifested. That manifestation of loveliness which you hold reverently in your hand is the expression of an image of beauty which has been held in the divine mind for eons of time. The flower has not yet evolved to its utmost perfection, for nothing ever reaches perfection, because all is infinite progress, and there is no finality. Yet the flawless beauty that we see, and the tender sweetness of its loveliness, tells me more of the mind of God than all the sermons ever preached. But in order to understand the mind of God through the contemplation of a flower, one must be able to understand a flower spiritually. When we understand spiritually the immaculate beauty of a simple blossom, then perhaps we can understand spiritually the beauty of the divine mind. As I gaze at a sweet blossom in front of me, I see all the love and tenderness of which it is an emblem, that has been held in the mind of God for countless ages. Before the foundations of the world came into being, the beauty of this flower was held in the creative, imaginative mind of God. Moreover, it has been held ever since. Each morning, when I go into our tiny conservatory, which is looked after with loving care by my wife, Elizabeth, I can feel these pure floral brothers and sisters welcoming me with their joyous presence. They touch my heart with their quickening smile. As I stand in their midst, I can feel their kind vibrations. Their loveliness takes on an ethereal radiance, and I feel that I am indeed in heaven. I am surrounded by loving smiles and glances, and all these manifestations of the beauty of the divine mind sink deeply into my soul. Each flower has its own particular beauty and charm, but they all draw me nearer to the heart of the divine. It is when I gaze at their unsullied loveliness that I can enter more fully and spiritually into an understanding of the infinite perfection and purity of God. There is no evil in the divine mind, they tell me. Look upon us, they seem to say, and you will understand that there can be no evil, that there is only infinite good. There is no disease in the divine intention, they seem to say. There can only be infinite perfection. And as I gaze at their purity and perfection, I get a true spiritual understanding that in God there can be no disease, ill health, or any negative thing. Life need not be the unlovely thing that it is to so many. Its cruelty and ugliness and selfishness are foreign to the divine idea. Let us study our flowers, and seeing them, learn something of the mind of God, something of the beauty, something of its serenity and deep peace. Let us gaze into the face of a flower and see in it the countenance of God. We apply this lesson to our own life. If in a flower there is the divine ideal, gradually finding expression in ever-increasing loveliness, then we need to accept that a complementary process of divine unfoldment is taking place within us. This unfoldment gradually seeks expression through an ever-increasing beauty of character and perfection of life. In the divine imagination is the perfected ideal, the matrix out of which we grow, the model to which our unfoldment is related. Therefore, by seeking and yearning after the divine, by turning constantly in thought and aspiration to the centre of good, we cannot help but be changed from glory to glory. God is so much more than a blind force finding expression and consciousness in nature and in man. God is not only immanent, he is also transcendent. Words are utterly useless here, for we cannot describe the indescribable. But we can look to God transcendent, guided perhaps by the beauty of a simple flower or a crimson sunset, and find ourselves in the superconscious realm of infinite perfection and radiance. No man has seen God at any time, but the mystic can sometimes catch a fleeting glimpse of the radiance and glory of the divine.